Yeah,
Now it's on.
Now they're on.
Now we're on, all right. Testing.
Yeah, they're on now.
Gotta watch what we're saying. Now we're probably on
I think she has something.
Yes, we are.
camera on. I noticed that camera up there, when we were having that presentation off of that drop
doesn't
right
show
there,
that.
that camera will rotate to that.
Does it?
Yeah, that camera rotates. Yeah, you could take that camera and turn that anywhere in this room, so we could have turned that thing right to the,
I'd say we just alter the camera flow, just have it zoomed in on Art all the time.
no, I don't think so, it's right on you, you're the one.
I'm next
in
to
the
him. No.
Yeah, no. This is,
Not putting it
she's got
over
the
me.
best spot, and that's why I'm normally like this, is,
Like pushing her over.
hide back here. Things are open if you want them, I got us all kinds of crap here.
I'm
If
good,
anybody
thank
wants
you.
any gum or anything?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the barbecue pizza was really good. I never had that before.
What's that?
That chicken barbecue?
No, I never had, that was pretty good
Yeah, it's
pizza.
pretty good pizza. I never
We
had
were
that
too
either.
efficient.
So what's going on at the old boatyard, Rob? I see these guys did some trenching. I was shocked at those, they got that all trenched and pipe ran and everything? Wow.
Putting in, boats, starting Monday.
So they're just fixing the gravel and just cleaning up, you know? Yeah. That's cool.
How's John's head doing?
Dominic, welcome.
Happy to be here. Good afternoon.
Council, we'll need a motion to return to our special meeting.
Motion to return to the meeting?
Is there a second? Second by McNabb. Katie, please call roll.
Cosmore,
Here.
McNabb,
Here?
Wilner,
Yes.
Schumate,
Here.
Valentine,
Here.
Wood. Here. Cox.
Yes.
Great. Well, Dominic, as I mentioned, welcome. We really appreciate you for applying for this position, number one, and number two, taking the time to be here for your interview. A couple of things to highlight. Number one is these meetings are open and being recorded and publicly broadcasted, so just want to make sure you're aware of that. Number two, the way we've structured the flow is we'll have a series of questions for you, and we'll go around the chambers, and each person will ask their question, at which point in time you can respond, and then we'll go ahead and ask for any clarifying questions or comments from council. And there will be, at the end of your interview, a question that will open up to you if there's anything else that you feel you'd like to address with council.
Terrific.
But really appreciate it. And council, if there's no further questions or comments, we'll go ahead and get started. We've been altering the starting position. So in this case, Councilman McNabb, would you like to kick us off with question number one?
Question number one, opening statement about yourself. What do you know about Gibraltar?
Well, for starters, I live here. I've lived here since, I believe, 2016. It's where I grew up. It's where my family lives. You know, my mom, my stepdad, my sister, her kid, my brother, my grandfather just moved into the senior facility down on Middle Gibraltar Road. So I very much have deep roots to the community, and I know exactly what makes this community special. I've had the opportunity to travel all over the country through college, various experiences. I came back to Gibraltar because of the people. That's the main reason why I want this job. And I also know the issues that our city is going to be facing. You know, flooding is going to be a big issue. With climate change, it's not a matter of if it becomes a catastrophe, it's when. So I care about preparing for the long run with the city. And I think that's something that's very important. And right now, we have a very good opportunity to lay that groundwork for what the city needs. Additionally, I know the small things in our community. Things like Canal Santa, the fireworks show that happens every 4th of July, put on by one of our exceptional citizens. It's those small things that I know about the community that I can bring to this position and really do justice by each and every one of our residents.
What street do you live on?
So I used to live on Lowell Street. Now I'm in the Bella Vista condo complex on West Jefferson.
Okay.
Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions or comments? Dominic, I do have one for you. You know, one of the things I think is important, thank you for your perspective on Gibraltar. We know everybody on paper during these interviews, but we'd love to hear your story. So really what we're focused on, and if you could comment on that at a high level, is tell us a little bit about your journey beyond the paper that we look at your resume, and how that's led to you standing here today.
Well, I guess I'll go with the timeline. It really started in high school. I got a job at Gosh & Sons Towing. It's one of the largest towing providers in the state. You know, my stepdad is the owner, Mike Gotch. And when I really started there, you know, it was just basic work, you know, things like janitorial, taking people back to get their cars, things like that. But as I worked there, I really understood the value of starting at the ground floor and being able to analyze, you know, what policies are working, which policies are not working, you know, how can we implement technology into this family business to make it more effective? One of the things that I took over there was the repair schedules for the different vehicles that we had. You know, we're talking heavy-duty wreckers, forklifts, pickup trucks, light-duty tow trucks, street sweepers. You know, those things, it was originally planned with just, you know, a whiteboard and marker, and people would walk past and it would smudge off a date or something. So I made the transition to put all that into spreadsheets and make sure that these things are tracked and that there's records of it so that we could be proactive in the maintenance of our equipment, make sure that things are working, save us money in the long run. And I did that all through high school, and I eventually enrolled in college. I went to Seton Hall University in New Jersey. I got my degree in 3 years. I studied political science and criminal justice. I graduated summa cum laude. I was very involved in the mock trial program there. It was something that I took extremely seriously, and you know, it was able to give me a community, and it was something that I really wanted to work to make better, because when I took over the club, I became president, and we had a serious budget deficit. We had $4,000 that we owed the school, and they were giving us no money. Well, I didn't want to take no as an answer, so I started pulling on the connections, seeing who we could talk to get money. I put my own money at stake. You know, we needed to, you know, fund travel expenses, hotels, hosting a tournament, things like that. We were able to do because I didn't take no as an answer. I took it to the next level. If somebody didn't want to help me, okay, you know, that's not the end all be all. I doubled down, put in the effort, and eventually I was able to negotiate with the school $30,000 of annual funding, which it was unprecedented for the program. And now that's eventually grown to $100,000 of funding after I left. Additionally, in college, I took many courses, things like grant management, finance. I worked on a project in the city of Newark, New Jersey. It's kind of a food desert. There's not a lot of fresh food options. So I laid the groundwork for a program where we would use shipping containers as community gardens to help make food more accessible to low-income residents. And after I graduated, I enrolled in their Masters of Public Administration program. I'm still in the process of completing that. I'm in my final semester, so I just have a couple classes left for that. And in that role, I've had a multitude of opportunities, specifically things like economic development. There's a city in New Jersey called Highland Park. It's a relatively similar community to Gibraltar. It has a small town atmosphere, but economic development was a serious thing that was lagging in the city. So what we did is we put together a plan to address that. We created a spreadsheet of every business in the city, reached out to them. We wanted to know, you know, what are your needs? What is holding you back from being a successful business, and then putting in place plans to address that, including starting a nonprofit in the city called Main Street Highland Park that offers resources to businesses, such as increasing their digital footprint and hosting various events for small businesses, including street fairs, which was another element that I participated in it. Specifically, they were working on building a public plaza to host these events, give a space for people to congregate, enjoy the businesses, enjoy the community. So I was a large part in planning that, things like getting street art and seating and venue spaces, you know, places where you could host food trucks and musicians and things like that. And then after I graduated, I, moved back here, and I had opportunities in New Jersey. I could have stayed there, I could have started a career, a life, but I wanted to come back here because it's very special to me. I mean, I get emotional thinking about this city and wanting to do right by this city, so I moved back here, and I got a job in Detroit working as a legal assistant in their Right to Counsel program, which provides free legal assistance for low-income tenants facing eviction. I've been there for roughly 6 months, and it's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, being able to serve people who are in tough positions, families, senior citizens, people who are down on their luck who just need a hand up to get back on their feet. So that brings me to here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Council, any clarifying questions or comments?
Do you hope someday to go to law school?
So originally I wanted to be an attorney, but then it really was my experience with mock trial and organizing that made me want to get more into public administration and, get my MPA. I'm a lot more focused on, public service, city management, things like that.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions or comments? Councilwoman Cosmore, floor is yours.
Okay. Communication is the key. How are you with asking for help or instructions if you're not comfortable with a task?
Well, my philosophy towards that is question everything. I mean, if you're not asking questions, you're not doing your job effectively. And nobody's an expert on absolutely everything. So it's your role as city manager to go to the people who are the experts, figure out, what do they think? And it's not just the experts, it's also the average city employee, from the DPW workers, to the people working the front desk, to the police officers, to the firefighters. If I get this opportunity, the first thing I want to do is sit down and interview everybody who's involved with the city. Each and every one of you, our employees, our contractors, and figure out, what's going on, what policies are working, which policies don't work, and go from there. But, having the philosophy of questioning everything, I think, is the first step in doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Council, any clarifying questions or comments? Councilman Molnar.
Thank you, sir. Dominic, when faced with limited resources, financial and otherwise, how as a manager do you set priorities for the use of limited resources that you have access to?
It really begins with good goal setting. I have a philosophy to set goals that are smart, meaning that they're specific, they're measurable, they're time-oriented, they're achievable. A lot of times, whether in personal life or, in career, you set goals like, for instance, I want to lose weight. That's not a good goal to set because it's not measurable. There's not a time limit to it. Whereas if I was like, I want to lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months, that is something that you can easily prioritize. And, the city, it runs on a tight budget. I follow what's going on in the city. I watch the city council meetings. I get that. But being able to prioritize what we need to get done first, things like addressing flooding, infrastructure, downtown development, you're not going to solve everything all at once, but by taking those clear steps, you can eventually get to every problem that you want to solve. And with, financial struggles, you don't want to accept that a tight budget is the end-all be-all. There's other options that we could explore, things like grants. I've been working with Mayor Shumate on finding grants for things like flooding and roads. So diversifying, what we can do to get out of those financial hardships, I think, is the first step, as opposed to accepting them and prioritizing, what needs to be done first.
Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions or comments?
How about when there's limited resources other than financial, so manpower, equipment? What do you do to handle those scenarios?
In terms of manpower, it would be taking the people you have and getting the most out of them. Anybody I've ever worked with has something to offer to the organization, to the goals to be achieved. The key part is being able to motivate them, making sure that they feel that Gibraltar isn't just a job, it's a community, something that they can be a part of, a job that treats them actually like a human being. So you can get a lot out of people if you motivate them effectively. And with equipment, it just comes down to making sure that our equipment is maintained on time. You know, it's like a car. You can save money not getting an oil change, but eventually that engine's going to blow up. So it's about being proactive in what we're doing to ensure that our financial resources aren't going to be sapped in the long term.
Thank you, Dominic. Council, any other clarifying questions or comments? Clerk Katie.
Hi. As administrator, how do you view your role in local government in comparison to the role of these elected officials?
Well, it's kind of twofold here. So you all set the policy standards. You all decide what's going to happen in the city, what the priorities are, and I turn that into a actionable goal. You know, how are we going to achieve that? If you want to increase funding to roads, okay, what are the funding options? What funding options do we have? Are we going to pass another millage? Are we going to pursue grants? Things like that. Are we going to look at a partnership with another city to see if we can, you know, help lessen that financial burden? But the communication between city manager and mayor and council also goes two ways. You know, I would bring ideas to you, you know, grant opportunities, policy ideas, things that I think could make the city better and things that I know we could be actionable on and actually achieve. So it's a very important relationship to maintain and something that, you know, needs to be taken with the utmost, you know, seriousness with also sincerity.
Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions or comments? All right, Dominic, your next question. In your role as city administrator, who do you feel is the most important group, individuals, or organization that you may interact with?
I mean, honestly, it's the residents, all 5,000 of them. I mean, we have very politically active and engaged people in this community, people who want to make our city the best that it can be. So it starts with them, you know. Mayor Shoemate, something that I really liked about, you know, when you became mayor is that you opened yourself up for office hours, you know. People who can just come, you know, on a regular weekly basis and talk with the mayor. I would do the same thing as city administrator. It's about being responsive to those citizens because that's the people who elect you. You know, I want each and every one of you to stay on city council. High turnover is not a good sign of an effective city when it comes to their, you know, leaders. And the second most important collaborator would be you all. I mean, you're the voice of the people that vote for you. So it's taking that, it's communicating openly with each and every one of you. And, you know, if I get this opportunity, I'd want to sit down with each and every one of you. Hear what specifically would you like to be addressed in the city? You know, what are your goals? What do you think's going wrong? What do you think's going right? And then acting on that. But really being open to both the voters, you, and the staff in the city, you know, treating them right, doing right by them, making sure that Gibraltar is a place that they want to stay because it's a lot cheaper to keep an existing employee than to have a high turnover rate where you're continuously finding new people.
Thank you so much. Council, any clarifying questions or comments? Councilwoman Wood.
Okay, let's see. Question number 6. In your professional career, what do you find to have been the most rewarding aspects of your current previous jobs? Most rewarding aspects of the position you are applying for?
So in my career experience, it would really just be serving other people. I mean, I get emotional thinking about the tenants that I've helped in Detroit. And I also had the experience to teach a program at Stanford University showing high schoolers how to compete in mock trial. And it was incredibly intensive. And, you know, you're working with kids where, you know, they have self-doubt. They don't know if they can do it. But I really got the most out of bringing the best out of each and every one of those kids. And, you know, I remember all their names. I remember their funny character quirks because it's important. You know, it's important to not lose the humanity when you're serving other people. It's not just data points. It's not just, oh, well, my kids did really good in this part of the program that we are running. It's about making sure that people are left happy and satisfied. And that's really what I got the most out of in my professional experience. And it's why I would get the most out of this opportunity. You know, I have, you know, family, community members, you know, everybody would be relying on me to make sure that our city is running smooth, efficiently, financially responsible, and being able to achieve that would be the most important thing I think I'd ever do in my life.
Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions or comments? Councilman Valentine.
It's a two-part question, but I'm going to ask it as one. Do you have any experience with millage requests? If so, what do you feel are the most important aspects of a successful millage request campaign?
So while I don't have any direct experience, I can tell you my philosophy on it. And that would be that, millage requests are a necessary part of running a city. Sometimes you do need to increase taxes. It's not the most ideal option. I would rather pursue grant funding or other ways of cutting costs to fund programs. But if it comes to that, you want to be able to go to the citizens and be, upfront and honest about why we need this money, why there isn't another option, and what we're going to do with it. People want to see their tax dollars put to work. I feel like that's a big issue in our country is that, we pay all these taxes, but you kind of lose that connection of where's this money going? What services are being provided? So by being honest and upfront with the citizens and telling them exactly why we need the money and exactly exactly how we're going to use the money, I think would be a very effective approach in that.
Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions or comments? Councilman Cox.
Hi, Dominic. The manager could potentially serve as a DPW director, DDA director, on the pension board, HR director, benefit coordinator, interfaces with the planning commission, as well as performs a variety of other roles. How would you address the need of such a diverse knowledge base to be efficient and effective in all of these roles?
Well, I think the first thing would be is to not approach it with a silo mindset, meaning that HR doesn't affect DDA and DDA doesn't affect DPW. All these aspects of our city are interconnected. Recognizing that is going to be the first step. Second is being well informed. I am a heavy reader. It's all I do in my free time. I want to be on top of the cutting edge city management methods. So that would be a big part of it. It's also consulting with the experts, like the people in our DPW department are going to know more about city maintenance than I do, but I'll be able to sit down and relate to them. I've done similar type of work. So being able to address both those insufficiencies in my experience while keeping an open mind to all these different needs of our city is going to be how you ensure that each of these aspects are going to be run. I also have thorough education in a lot of these, needs that our city has, I took courses in my master's on human resources, data collection, things like that, making sure that, when we're making database decisions that, the data is in fact reliable. That's something that's really important, is bringing, technology into the fold and making sure that, we don't get lost in focusing on one department, but we're bringing up the city as a whole.
Great. Council, any clarifying questions or comments? I have one on that question, and I'll just use kind of a reference point, and then I'll give you a backdrop on why I'm asking the question. So the reference point is, you mentioned in your answer there, insufficiencies in experience, right? And how you could work to do other tasks, reading, leaning on experts, et cetera, to drive the outcome, right? The other backdrop I want to think about is, for us as council, as we're having these interviews, right? We're looking at a spectrum of experience across the different candidates, right? So if you think about your answers so far, you think about your application of the role, and you think about your experience relative to somebody else who's bringing city manager experience or other city-specific experience, what would you like to say to council around why you're fit for this position relative to that backdrop of the other candidates that we are considering?
So, it is the elephant in the room. I'm young. But that isn't a weakness. It's a benefit. Number one, I haven't been a city manager before. Let's say I was the city manager of Ecorse and I wanted to move to Gibraltar to be the city manager here. I'm going to be taking any bad habits that I learned in Ecorse and applying them to Gibraltar. I want to run Gibraltar the way that Gibraltar needs to be run. By having that blank slate with the knowledge and the passion to do so, I think would be the most effective thing for the city. I mean, we're at a point right now where, you know, change is gonna be happening. And having somebody who is a resident, knows the community, and knows how to make sure that our, you know, our town is gonna be economically viable and successful in the long run, while also not losing our, you know, local community, small town charm, is something that's gonna be very important. But, you know, I am young, but what I bring to that is being on the cutting edge of, you know, what do the experts say? I read all the time. Preparing for this interview, I spent weeks reading up on, you know, what do the most current city managers believe is the right way to go, you know? So being able to apply that and be humble and be open to learning, I think is something very valuable that turns my youth into a benefit and advantage for the city.
Thank you, Dominic. Council, any clarifying questions, comments?
Yeah. Can I kind of write on that? I was going to say, we do have like a vast amount of city managers in the Downriver area that would be willing to help. Would you be comfortable reaching out to them, taking advice, talking to all of them as well?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, you know, and that would be the first step, is the moment I get the offer, you know, I'm reaching out to the connections I already have in, you know, Lincoln Park, Melvindale, Rockwood, you know, Brownstown. I'm gonna be reaching out to all these people and saying, you know, what's worked in your city? What has made your city great? What maybe hasn't worked? And taking all those perspectives in mind and knowing our community and being a part of our community and applying it here. Because I know I can do the job, and I know on paper I am young and I am inexperienced, but I have the capability to learn. And I don't have a big ego with stuff like that. At the end of the day, as city manager, myself is my bottom priority. I would live on a park bench and eat ramen noodles every day if it meant the city could be better. And that's really what I want to bring here, is that I have a passion for it. This is my dream job. This is everything that I want to do in my life. So having that opportunity would be fantastic. And being young, it's an investment in the long term. Being able to learn and, you know, evolve and continuously get better, you know, 1% better each day. That's really what our city needs in a manager.
Thanks, Dominic. Council, any clarifying questions or comments?
What is David's Shoes?
What?
What is David's Shoes?
David Shoes, that was a nonprofit in New Jersey. It was focused on book scholarships for, you know, low-income students going into college. I mean, books are very expensive. I know that firsthand. So being able to lower that bar for, you know, kids getting into education and looking to further their goals, it was something that was very important to me. And, you know, I got to meet with local residents in Newark and talk to them and, you know, develop a funding strategy for the organization. It was a small nonprofit run by the grandmother of a, you know, a boy who got caught up in the street life in Newark and lost his life because of that. So it really was something that, you know, kind of inspired my passion for serving others, and it was very rewarding.
Thank you. Council, any other clarifying questions or comments? Amy, I'm going to turn over to you for question number 9.
In this position, you may be dealing with multiple outsourced city departments, such as the assessor, the building, engineering, legal, and planning. But in the eyes of a citizen, these are all the city. What is your approach to the citizen and to the out-of-office vendors performing their scope of work to ensure that the request is getting properly addressed and communication stays up to date with the citizens and between multiple vendors, such as engineering with building and planning?
So it really is a dichotomy in city management, whether you're going to do things in-house, have your own assessor, your own building inspector, your own engineer, or if you're going to look to outside vendors, whether that's contracting with another nearby city or a private company. And, you know, I'm aware of these different vendors. Our city has WCA Assessing, McKenna, Wade Trim, and, you know, going into it, I'm not biased one way or another, whether in-house is the way to go or contracting with a different provider is going to be most effective. Really what I'd want to do is sit down and see, you know, what are we getting out of these arrangements? You know, how effective is McKenna in doing their job? How effective is WCA in doing their job? How effective is Wade Trim in doing their job? And by looking at that and making, a cost benefits list, you can really sit down and figure out, what does our city need? Is McKenna going to be effective? That is a question that I would want to answer. And no matter which route we go, it's about holding these providers accountable. Making sure that they're doing right by our residents, making sure that they're accessible, making sure that the policies they have in place for dealing with our residents is up to our standard of a high level of service, making sure that they're not treated like customers, but residents, like people, our neighbors. So that's going to be something that'd be really important in this opportunity is, making sure that we have standards for whatever we decide to do, whether it's in-house or outsourcing.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions or comments? We have a final question that will be delivered by Councilman McNabb, but before we get there, for every candidate, just for transparent purposes, we're asking a simple question, which is, do you have any professional or personal relationships with everybody up here or anybody up here? I'll lead with saying two things. One, transparently, Dominic had reached out to me early 2023, offering help with the campaign that I was about to embark on for the mayor position. I want to be very transparent. We had no prior relationship or friendship prior to that. We got mutually connected. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for your expertise and time. So that was one. The second thing I want to disclose is that Dominic's been reaching out, and Michael, and then subsequently Vince, have been involved because Dominic's been proposing grant opportunities. So he's done some research, shared some grant opportunities. So I want to be fully transparent on those two things from my end as it relates to today, and glad to recuse myself from any decision-making processes as council sees fit, but want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Dominic, any other personal or professional relationships you have with anybody on this chambers?
Yeah, that was the same thing I was going to say is, I was involved in your campaign, did some door knocking, and I have been working with you on grant opportunities. And, no matter which way this pans out, whether I get the job or not, I do want to be a resource for the city, at least continue that grant work and, do right by my community and make it better in any way I can.
Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions or comments on that topic? Councilman McNabb will ask our final question for you, and then Dominic, if you have any questions or comments for us.
I know you took the time for this interview. Is there anything that you were expecting us to ask you, or we did not?
You all asked fantastic questions. I've been interviewed several times, and you all really hit the main points. I guess the one thing I was preparing for a lot more was, the specific issues, facing Gibraltar. I stay up to date on, what these big questions facing our community are. Things like short-term rentals, where we're going with these, these providers, and downtown development, flooding, infrastructure. Those were some key things that, I was maybe looking for in the interview process, but things that I would really love to talk about more and address.
Thank you. Council, any other comments or questions for Dominic?
I have one,
Please.
and that's when it comes to, purchasing decisions that we make as a city, do you have any considerations or thoughts on public bidding and/or other purchasing avenues that you have knowledge of?
I think request for proposal is 100% the way to go. I'm somebody, I hate the idea of, backdoor deals or hand-picking people without putting that opportunity out to any provider in the area. I think that's something that's very important, is that we be fair in these contracts that our city puts out. So that would definitely be my mindset towards those sort of things, is request for proposal is 100% the way to go.
Great, thank you.
Council, any other questions or comments for Dominic? Well, I'll give you the floor once I close here. Dominic, just thank you for being here, for applying for this position, and for answering the questions we had. And I'll turn it over to you if there's anything you wanted to say in closing.
Thank you all for taking the time. It honestly is an honor to be able to come before all of you, talk about my vision for Gibraltar, and hopefully get the opportunity to be city manager, because I think there is a lot of good that we could do for the city, both short-term and long-term. So I thank each and every one of you, and no matter what the decision's going to be, I want to be a resource for the city, whether it's working with a different city manager or being the city manager myself. I'm dedicated to this area. I want to live here for the rest of my life. So, you know, I know you all will do right by the residents that you serve. So thank you for serving this community. Thank you for serving me as one of the residents.
Thanks, Dominic. We look forward to being in touch with next steps.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Thanks, sir.
You too.
Council, we have a little bit of time before our next applicant comes in. By little, Katie can keep me honest.
6:45.
So I would say we would look to just take some time to make sure your notes are captured, perhaps a motion to recess so that we can be back in here in 29 minutes.
Motion to reset for another 25 minutes.
Second.
Second by McNabb. Council, just to be clear, let's be back in the room by 40 after the hour, if that sounds fair, so that we can be prepared for 45.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Katie, can you call roll?
McNabb.
Yes.
Mulnar.
Yes.
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Cosmo.
Awesome. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, now I can shut it off.
Okay, maybe I might have to have another cookie.